All right. Hello. Okay, I am presenting another manuscript today. I presented a different manuscript last time. I'm showing you what I'm doing these past few weeks. What I've been trying to do is show changing organizational structures, mechanisms, and roles in a school with a PT. But there's so many things that I can look at, so I needed some frames. So for one frame, I was showing how different interaction foci. For example, how does digital storytelling as an interaction foci in a school change structures, mechanisms, and roles, if at all? So that was, I think, the first time I presented, I was sharing about this. And then I was presenting about conflicts. And I was sharing how conflict between the PTs and the roles, certain roles like teachers and principals that get into fights, lead to changes here. Where can we locate these and how are these changing? Today, I'm examining specific relationships, what I call strong ties. So I'm taking a look at the PT and another person in the school. They have a very close relationship because of certain similarities. And because of their relationship, their working relationship, how do these change? I'm going to write another manuscript. Write another one. Hold on. There's one more. There's one more I'm writing about. Oh, give me a moment. Hello. I'm writing another manuscript. I forgot what it is. And then I'm going to ask for your help. So as soon as I remember what I was writing about. PhD supervisor meetings. Conflict, organizational structures. Okay. I finished another manuscript on certain mechanisms or strategies. So the PT creates some mechanisms. And in creating these mechanisms, how do other mechanisms, roles, and organizational structures change? I might present that next week. Okay? So select mechanisms. So I'm giving you different frames. Ultimately, I'm studying changes in organizational structures, mechanisms, and roles in schools as a result of this pedagogical technologist. Again, a complex adaptive system. You have this, you have these, they're interacting with each other, everything's changing. So what's a good frame for me to look at these changes? Well, we can look at it through different interaction foci or technological changes. We can look at it through conflict between different roles. We can look at it through a single relationship between a PT and another role, which I will talk about today. We can talk about it through the creation of certain mechanisms, what happens to these, and these. Now, I had a meeting with Nancy today, and this is all well and good, but ultimately, I still have not finished writing my dissertation. I have not written my chapters. These are very small frameworks, but this is not dissertation framework. And that's actually what I need a lot of help with tonight and next week as well. I still don't know how I'm going to write up my dissertation chapters. I'm going to be writing cases. You see I've been writing cases here, cases of interaction foci, cases of conflict between PT and specific roles. You'll see cases of PTs with certain roles tonight. You'll see cases of mechanisms next week. But how exactly am I going to write up cases for my dissertation?
Yes, to link up all the different lenses together.
Yes. So what exactly is the grand plan? What are the possible storylines that I can write about in a structured way? You know, I have all this data, and you see how I'm sharing all this data. I'm sharing all this data through these little foci, right? But these are journal manuscripts. This is actually not a dissertation. This is all piecemeal stuff. So what's the grand plan to organize all of this stuff? So that I systematically write case A, like that. Case B, like that. So that's what I need help in, thinking the storyline. These are possible storylines. I've gone through, analyzed data through these possible storylines. But they're just manuscript storylines, not a dissertation story. So that's what I need help on tonight, guys. All right. So I've already given you the history of this paper. It's one in a series where I examine changing organizational structures, a changing ecology. So the ecology, the first time I introduced this stuff to you, I told you in ecology is organizational structures, mechanisms, roles, and physical infrastructure too, but I'm not looking at that in this paper. The methodology, I'll share with you again. Developing strong ties. This is a social network analysis term. So I went through my qualitative data. I tried to identify mechanisms or meetings, right? Decision-making meetings. And at these decision-making meetings, who's there? And then we can tally, right? So for example, if we just measure the meetings that we've had, these Nancy's Research Student Symposium meetings, we can actually tally attendance, right? Who actually attends these meetings? So right now, have you guys been at all the meetings?
Kind of, I just...
Oh, you missed one, right?
Yes.
So you and I actually have the strongest ties, because he's attended all the meetings, and I have attended all the meetings. So that means that he has the most links with me through here. So that's actually how I develop the strong ties. Just find out all the meetings, find out who's at all the meetings, and who's at all of these PT meetings. And that's how we figure out who has the strongest ties. Okay. Excuse me. All right. Now let's get to the good stuff. So, I have 4 cases, and these are 4 strong ties. In one school, the pedagogical technologist, the ICT facilitator, works most closely with an ICT facilitator, the same exact job. All right. In another school, the head of teaching and learning technologies works most closely with the ICT subject teacher of the English language stream of a primary school on one campus of a larger international school in Hong Kong. The ICT curriculum leader works most closely with the ICT curriculum educational support assistant at an international school in Hong Kong. And this school actually has 2 of these roles, and one for each campus, and this person works most closely with this person, with this role, regardless of campus. The learning technology coordinator of this international school worked most closely with the vice principal, according to the data. So I chose these 4 cases. Look, I've studied many PTs, right? I didn't actually use this case. I used these cases because, well, they show variety. There's actually a lot of variety of the PT working with different roles, with the strongest ties. So I chose them because they're all different, right? If I were to talk about the digital literacy coach, right now, if I were to actually write a case about that, the digital literacy coach works most closely with the other digital literacy coach. But I already have one of those. I got one of those already. Right? So forget about that. Okay. So now I'm going to talk about the organizational structures, mechanisms, and interaction foci. Where do these people actually meet? They meet at these kinds of mechanisms. What are they working on? They're working on these kinds of things. Okay, so these pairs are meeting here, and they're working on these things. And what organizational structures do they have in common? These two guys belong to the learning technology section of their school. This guy is actually this person's line manager. These two belong to the ICT curriculum organizational structure. They also belong to the same campus. These two both have organizational responsibility assignment to the primary school of one curriculum stream of the international school. And those facilitators belong to this literacy organizational structure in their school. Now I'm going to talk about organizational structures. And how they facilitate strong ties, and how the strong ties change the organizational structures. Again, it's dialogical, right? Going back to this whole idea of a complex adaptive system. So from these things, you get these pairs. And from these pairs, you also get changes as well to the system. So why do we have...
Is it anything to do, because the PT will have some interaction with mechanism, will be generate some form of identification, means some guideline for further interactions?
Yes. That's not always the case, and I'm not focusing on that in this particular manuscript. But yes. Okay, so how do we get strong ties? Well, we get strong ties because of mutual organizational structures. Because they actually belong to the same structures, that means they most likely attend the same meetings too, right? Because structures subsume mechanisms or decision-making meetings. So if they belong to the same kind of cognate group, then they're going to attend the same things. So small wonder that we're here because we're all Nancy's students. Because we all belong to Nancy's organizational structure, that's why we're at this meeting. That's why we can get strong ties. Now, as a result of having these strong ties, we also increase the PT's organizational structure reach, because the partner may belong to more than one organizational structure. For instance, this is very, very important. I'm going to go back here. The vice principal is not only in charge of learning technology, he's also in charge of curriculum in the school. So because they work very, very closely under this organizational structure, well, he can actually influence this person to change curriculum structure as well. So the ICT facilitator in this school, this is a very special school where they teach in 2 languages simultaneously. Unfortunately, this person doesn't speak the other language, but that person does. So what this person did was created this role specifically for the other half of the faculty who speak the other language. So this person targets specifically the speakers of the other language, so they work together to influence the speakers of the other language. So that's organizational reach right there. the ICT curriculum leader. Because there's only one ICT curriculum leader, but several campuses and several schools, ICT curriculum leader can't actually be in both campuses and all the schools at the same time, right? So he needs this person, one at each campus, to kind of be the go-between between other stakeholders and him. Now this is very, very curious, because this is the case, and I write it in my manuscript, where the organizational reach is not increased because of their partnership. It's actually very, very strange, because to be quite frank, I'm not even sure they share the same organizational structure. This person, notionally, is responsible for several campuses and several schools, primary and secondary schools. Not only that, that person is responsible for distinct curriculum streams in all the schools. So we're talking like a school that is partitioned like this. Many campuses, many schools, primary and secondary, and then within the schools, distinct schools. One for this curriculum stream, one for that curriculum stream. This person is notionally in charge of all of them. But the person has the strongest ties with the ICT subject teacher of one curriculum stream in one primary school in one campus.
Yes.
And so I'm thinking of rival theories, right? Again, case. Why the heck is this the case? They don't really have any mutual organizational structure. But you have to look at this guy's past to understand. He, before he was this, was that. That's very, very meaningful. He was actually the ICT subject teacher of that curriculum stream, of that primary school, on that campus. So there's familiarity with the organizational structure.
Is that he actually facilitate the ICT subject teacher in performing his or her duties? Because, as you said, his once was a ICT subject teacher.
Yes.
But in the interaction between the present role with the role of ICT subject teachers, do he or she have some strong influence or has some organization influence on the ICT subjects in his or her delivery of the courses of curriculum?
Yes. To what degree? I actually don't know. I don't know that, because my focus wasn't on that person. My focus was on this person. Now I can see the impact this person has on this person, because this person goes to all of these mechanisms. And all of these mechanisms were more or less created by this person. So I'm coming up with a rival theory to explain how they can be paired up with each other. One other rival theory, too, is that this person doesn't speak the other language of the school, of the curriculum stream. So basically, he can't even work with half the school, because he doesn't actually speak the language of half of the schools in the campuses. Okay. Yeah, so I talked about Stephen's case. Now let's talk about mechanisms. I already mentioned that mutual organizational structures can facilitate strong ties because these roles have mutual mechanisms. They attend the same meetings. Now, mutual mechanisms outside of structures can also facilitate strong ties. And I think case A is Stephen again. They have strong ties because the ICT subject teacher goes to all of these things. And the ICT subject teacher doesn't have to go to all of these things. This isn't a part of her job description. These are all things that Stephen created that are basically locked outside of other, they're just things he just made up, events or mechanisms he made up. And she just goes to all of them. That's why they have strong ties. And again, these mutual mechanisms outside structures tend to be informal and voluntary mechanisms. So, for instance, these guys also share taxi rides to school. They actually come from the same place, so they share taxi ride to school every day so they can talk. And they can talk about things. And the importance of these informal mechanisms, like, for example, they also share informal office space and office space. They actually sit in the same office. Is that when you start talking, going back to your original point about reification, then you start having ideas, like how we have ideas, and then we're like, okay, well, let's actually have another meeting next week. So one thing leads to another thing. So through these kinds of talks, they ended up creating a formal mechanism that, again, strengthens their ties. We're like, oh, why don't we do this together? So they say, okay, let's do it. So they create this, and then they facilitate stronger ties between each other. So I'm showing you how, like, because of this relationship, things are changing, mechanisms are changing. One mechanism may lead to another mechanism. Okay. Hello. You there? Mommy? Hello. Sorry. Almost there. Last slide. Okay. What else can explain strong ties? Creation and continuity. So the ICT facilitator created that role for the purpose of having strong ties. I actually need to work with someone very closely to reach that organizational structure of a language group that I don't speak. So she actually created that role. This role existed, okay, this relationship existed before these roles existed. Before this person was the ICT curriculum leader, he was the ICT subject teacher. Before this role existed, this person was the ICT subject teacher's assistant. So they were the teacher and assistant before the school decided to change the organizational structure and say no more ICT subject teaching. So when they changed the no more ICT subject teaching, whole school approach to technology integration, their relationship it continued. They just had new job titles and new scope. So through creation and continuity, and that's my explanation for this too, the idea of continuity. Because this person used to be that thing, that role, there's some familiarity there. So that can create strong ties. Now with these strong ties, a benefit, going back to interaction foci, is that they can actually handle different aspects of the interaction foci. So, for example, excuse me, what's a good example? Okay, so like iPads, right? The ICT curriculum leader and the ICT curriculum educational support assistant can handle different aspects of iPads in schools. For instance, this person can charge the iPads and install software. So you can see them doing different aspects of the interaction foci. At the same time, they can do the exact same thing. So the ICT facilitators with their iPads, oh, I didn't put it up there. Oh, no, I did. They both research iPad apps. Both of them pilot them with teachers. Both of them actually purchase the iPads as well. both of them install the apps on the iPads. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. So, in addition to increased organizational reach, like the PT can reach more organizational structures, the PT can also reach more individuals and more roles in the school through the partnership, through this person's social network in the school. For instance, in this case, there are a lot of teachers that won't approach this person for whatever reason. Sometimes they're afraid or scared to talk to this person. So they will talk to this person, who then talks to this person. So through these strong ties, this person can also tap the social network of this person. Variety and ambition. Yeah, okay. Okay. And one final point for schools to consider is, especially in this case, where is the recognition for strong ties? Should there even be a mechanism? So in some of these relationships, there actually are mutual organizational structures that officially recognize these strong ties. But what about the ICT subject teacher? What credit does that person actually receive? What formal credit for participating in all these formal mechanisms that this person created? There's no actual payoff, a tangible payoff in the school. That's something for schools to consider. What is the reification of the strong tie? Or how can we better reify these strong ties? Okay, that's it. Done.
Yes, it's really good to understand the relationships between these two roles.
Okay. Thank you, David. Well, I think I didn't attend the meeting, the introduction policy, because in your table, you showed the introduction policy. To me, was like, what is written there? Looks like tools.
Yes.
I don't know what you mean with introduction policy, because it means what kind of tools they are using or teaching with tools.
Yes. Yes.
And those tools, for example, are using Google application with the vice principals, are tools using between those partners or with the students. For example, Scratch, Digital Story, what is tools used between the partners or with the students? I'm trying to understand.
Okay. So these two pairs attend all of these decision-making meetings, these mechanisms. But what's the point of all of these meetings? What are they actually working on? If I had to kind of sum up, what's the point of the PD workshop, or the CPD day, or the Tech Fest, or the Saturday Computer Club? What are they actually doing? It's not just them, but all the other stakeholders who are attending these things. Okay, again, let's not deceive ourselves. These people are with other stakeholders at these meetings as well. They're working on these things. Okay, so what I did, again, is I identified all the mechanisms, decision-making meetings. I figured out who is attending these meetings. I figured out the purpose of these meetings. And this is the table. So, for instance, at the Tech Fest, these two guys were leading it. The principal and other teachers were attending it, and they were demonstrating things like Twitter and password protection and Digo. So these two guys were for example, at a lesson observation. This person was observing the lesson that this person was co-teaching with another teacher with students, and they were working on digital storytelling. So that is the interaction foci.
I understand. Thank you, David.
Of course.
Also, you showed there in the whiteboard. I think those are variables, but I don't understand. Those are we call independent variables, or the outcomes, or the dependent variables, or to make the distinction, because you want to organize. You said you want to organize
You
your
said
data.
anything you will identify what's the DV and also the IV.
I don't want to do that.
Yes, I do agree with you. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, I know, but what I'm thinking about is for organizing, not for understanding from the quantitative perspective, but just for organizing the data, just for the organization.
Ask me again.
To present, we know we are doing qualitative research, yes, of course, but just in order to organize the data for, you said you want to write your thesis, maybe we need to lend this lens just for organizing the data. I know there is no independent, and then I know because it is qualitative, just for organizing the data and understand your data. Maybe I don't know. For example, what will be the, let's say, the raw data? What is the because roles? So I would like to better to organize these variables, because to me those looks like the qualitative,
I agree with you. I need your help. I don't know how to organize them.
For example, I was thinking, to make make the table and the double entrance table. That's what I say. What is the distinction between the first, the four first variables you wrote, and the others, the organization structure, roles, and make it. So maybe to make it like a table, ones from here and here, and I don't know, trying to check maybe your cases, because I don't know how many cases do you have.
It depends on how many I want. Again, this is the whole idea of case selection. I have so much data.
Yeah. How much? Because I don't know how many around, or approximately.
Zdenka, let me rephrase. I must say it to you again. I can do whatever I want.
I see.
See, cases, there must be a purpose for the case.
Okay.
There must be a purpose for the case number. That's why I explained to you I chose 4 here. And why these 4? Because there's sufficient variety in the partner roles. Why didn't I use this one? Because I could use this one if I wanted to. Well, this person already works with the same role. I already have a case where they work with the same role. I can make a million cases if I want.
I see.
I have not shared this data with you, and I've not shared that data with you guys.
Do you think the 4 cases say they individually is unique in some sense? That's right.
Oh yes, they are. I need some similarity between them. We need to understand the idea of balance and variety. But let's go back to this whole point of cases. Look, in the entire time that I've been presenting to you guys, I've never shared about this data set and that data set. This is the first time I'm sharing, ooh, look, I actually studied this guy too, and that one. I actually have other data sets too that I haven't even shared with you yet. There are other PTs that I have a lot of data for. But when do I actually need it? What's the point? So going back to this whole thing, it's like, well, how the heck do I organize it? In the actual manuscript for this particular strong ties thing, you see how I organized it. I organized it by this, 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 and this. Okay. And then I described all of these things, and then I discuss the following slides about the impact, the changes. But for my dissertation, what's the lens going to be to talk about the changes?
You said you need all to encompass all the four lenses together in a single dissertation. You need to?
I don't know.
I don't know.
We can do whatever I want. That's
Yeah.
all. That's the whole thing. It's like
Yeah.
these were sufficient lenses to describe these changes for some manuscripts.
What are your research questions? Because according to that, you can even choose maybe not the four, maybe it could be just two
Just
or
one.
three. What are your research questions?
Yes. What are changes? Where are my research questions? Give me a second. Oh, where are you? Where are my original research questions? Citers, PRC. I don't even remember what my original research questions were. Oh, give me a second. Almost there. My original research questions were how does a school ecology change with the presence of a pedagogical technologist? How do they co-evolve? That is a massive question. The answer is this.
Yeah.
How do I break this apart? I've been breaking it apart like this. But how do I actually write it up? How do I write up a case to answer each of these questions? Systematically, structurally.
For example, in my case, changing the organization is structure. Well, I would say changing through. For example, the four. No, the first one with the four, the second with the four. Analyzing just the roles with the 1, 2, 3, 4, and the roles. Just the,
No, I don't know.
no.
That's why I need help.
Because I don't know, you call it this A, B, C. So I was just thinking, through explaining what, I don't know, you mean the organization, how to arrange it, the same 1, 2, 3, 4, the same C, 1, 2, 3, 4,
No.
something like that. I was trying to,
Oh, hey, that's good. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
just for writing,
Yes.
because actually, just for writing a dissertation, because usually they have even several 3.1111 something. Some people do that, but at the conclusion or in the discussion, you try to put it all together. This is just one by one because people just focus. It's the same like the double table entrance. So also this could be like A, B, C, no more, 1, 2, 3, 4, and but this will be big, maybe big. No, not little. Maybe it could be very big. I don't know how big because I don't know if you want to write here the cases or just characteristics. I don't know
Okay.
actually, or maybe you can do it inside diagrams. I don't know.
Diagrams are nice.
Whatever.
Okay, so let me summarize. You're suggesting I organize cases. Hold on a sec. Organizational structures. PT1, PT2, PT3, PT4, PT etc. PT infinity. And then changes to the mechanisms. PT blah, 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 blah. Okay, I could do that. But again, it's like there's so many changes.
There are changes.
How do I when I write about, for example, let's talk about head of teaching learning technologies, PT2, changes to the organizational structures. As a result of what? That's the thing. It's like
This is just
everything is changing.
I know.
In a complex
I know,
system, everything is
I know.
changing. It's like, ah.
The issue is that those changes could be very difficult in the the structure of the dissertation put it there is
Yes.
a little difficult, but this is the way, the simplest way. Then we try to find out to combine it again, maybe like, maybe like this. I don't know. Still, I don't know. But for writing, the dissertation must be like this because it's a dissertation. That is the structure of the dissertation.
Usually a structure.
It could be well, I agree, this is one way. Another way could be by the pedagogical technologist and then going PT1, A, B, C,
yes,
B, C.
also. This is just for writing the chapter,
Yes,
so I don't
yes.
know whatever.
I have no idea what I'm going to be writing about though. That's the whole thing. It's like,
But it should be, it must be, I think so, because it's
oh,
the
yes,
traditional
yes,
way.
yes.
From that, you can combine, I don't know if it's a table or could be a chart. It just could be, I don't know, to try to figure it out, the complexity of the whole idea, because it's not like one by one, it's actually very complex. But one solution is this table, and the other is the traditional also, because it's like presenting, in 3 dimensions. It's like in 3 dimensions, but means trying to organize to explain the complexity, to use a diagram, something.
Yes, I'm going to talk to Mark Bray. That's Mark Bray's cube.
It was very
I'm
useful, because he was using 3 variables. But when it's 4 variables, we can't figure it out 4 dimensions. But in 4 dimensions, you use 3 cubes. Because people is very difficult to understand. This is for 2 dimensions, 2 variables. Only this is for 3 dimensions that Mark Bray uses. But if you have another variable, that's what I call the variable 1, 2. How many variables do you have? I don't know. If you have 4 variables, for 4 variables, 4 dimensions, you use 3 cubes or 4 cubes. Try to figure it out.
Well, you know what? 4 cubes, 4 dimensions too much for me. 3 dimensions is fine.
The 5 dimensions, I think, is more difficult. I don't know how to.
I think 4 dimension is a limit because
Here's one variable.
to conceptualize 5th dimension.
Yeah,
Two.
something like that. That's what the variables are saying. What are the variables? How many variables are coming inside? Another approach also, I want to use it because other friends will use it to show the people, the complexity is changing the 5 dimension, the same, but with colors. Change it inside every cube, colors from the rainbow colors, red, too complex.
I'm already lost. I can handle 3. So.
There are many ways to present this complexity.
Yes. For many ways, it has to be understandable ways, especially to the presenter. So I thank you. I think one variable actually is the PT. The other is this ecology. But when I'm again going back to this whole point of changing PT and changing ecology, in terms of what? That's the thing, right? I've talked about in terms of an interaction foci, in terms of conflicting roles and strong ties, and then certain creation of certain
Use
mechanisms.
all of them. Already you have it. So you have one cube for the interactions foci. Another cube you explain I don't know what it means. For another this one. So you have for each of them you can explain.
Yes. Sounds good. Oh, one more thing too. I was going to write another one. I'm not going to tell Nancy about this. It's been on my mind for a long time. The actual creation of the PT role in each school involves changing structures and mechanisms and roles. You get PT, you get changing structures and mechanisms and roles. And that's like the reification of the role, what I presented last week. I think that's something you want to write about too. Initial reification of role. That's another lens to talk about the scope. It's not the entire data set, it's just initially what happened to actually create them. Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
GG. Thank you, Zdenka.
I don't know. Because Nancy, we